Kia ora te whānau. Welcome to day 10 in our devotional journey through the book of Acts. Before we begin, let's start with prayer. The Christ child is about to be born, the one promised by the angel. Mary's fullness of time has arrived, except that the birth is scheduled according to the emperor. A decree went out that all should be numbered. Caesar declared a census, everyone counted. Caesar intended to have up-to-date data for the tax rolls. Caesar intended to have current lists of draft eligibility. Caesar intended taxes to support armies, because the emperor in whatever era is always about money and power. About power and force, about force and control, and eventually violence. And while we wait for the Christ child, we are enthralled by the things of Caesar: money, power, control, and all the well-being that comes from such control, even if it requires a little violence. In the midst of the decree will come this long-expected Jesus. Innocent, vulnerable, full of grace and not power, truth and not money, mercy and not control. We also dwell in the land of Caesar. We pray for the gift of your Spirit, that we may loosen our grip on the things of Caesar, that we may turn our eyes towards the baby, our ears towards the newness, our hearts towards the gentleness, our power and money and control towards your new governance. We crave the newness, and while the decree of the emperor rings in our ears with such authority, give us newness that we may start again at the beginning, that the innocence of the baby may intrude upon our ambiguity, that the vulnerability of the child may veto our lustful control, and that we may be filled with wonder and so less anxiety. In the blessed name of the baby, we pray. We turn to today's passage, that's Acts chapter 2, verses 42 to 47, which says this: They devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching, and to fellowship, to the breaking of bread, and to prayer. Everyone was filled with awe at the many wonders and signs performed by the apostles. All the believers were together and had everything in common. They sold property and possessions to give to anyone who had need. Every day they continued to meet together in the temple courts. They broke bread in their homes and ate together with glad and sincere hearts, praising God and enjoying the favor of all the people. And the Lord added to their number daily those who were being saved. For most in the ancient world, being family meant a lot more than what we mean by it now. Like now, there was a sense of mutual love and care, and of loyalty and commitment, but it also went further than that in the ancient world. Because the norm was to have 3 or more generations, sometimes including cousins, living alongside each other in the one house together. The men would learn the same trade. They would work alongside each other, and they would collectively share the takings so that everyone had their needs met. This living by a single purse was normal family life in the ancient world, but it would be seen as radical today. It was this understanding of family that was the model for the early Christians in understanding how they do life together. Earlier in Luke, we're told about how Jesus and his disciples and his followers, they also shared one common purse, where all the gifts that they were given were gathered together and then distributed to those who had need, just like was done in the ancient household. And what began in the ministry of Jesus continued into the early church. Sure, things got a bit more complicated as they grew in number, but though there was increased complexity, they were committed to continuing to live this way, to be family in the fullest sense of the word, and to be family together. So while these believers seem to retain ownership of their own houses, they continued to meet in each other's homes, they sold their extra properties, which was a massive deal during a time in which one's ancestral heritage was attached to land. But they did so to ensure that everyone's needs were met, just as it functioned in any household, and just as it functioned with Jesus and his disciples. In this expression of Christian community, where needs are met as what's mine becomes ours, what happened? Well, they became less attached to things and more attached to Christ and his church, giving them an energy, a motivation, and excitement for this new radical thing that God was birthing amongst them. And those that looked on, well, they were attracted by the humanity of it all. Where you no longer push people down so you can get up, or exploiting the weak so that you can have more, but where the strong and the rich give of their excess so that the poor and the weak aren't reduced to begging, to starvation, or to selling themselves. In a harsh world, here was a community who saw the person and respected their humanity as being made in the image of God. So my question is this: to what extent are you acting in ways that live like this, where you give of your excess for the well-being of the wider family of God? To what degree does your budget reflect the values of the kingdom and of the Jesus community? Consider these things. Take them to God in prayer, and take action where it's needed. Stay safe. Stay home. See you on the live stream at 10 a.m. God bless.